name is Megan. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about my kitchen cabinets, how I chalk painted them, and what they look like 2 years later. Okay, so first things first, I painted my kitchen cabinets with Annie Sloan's chalk paint. I did this 2 years ago, like almost to the day. I moved into my husband's house and his cabinets looked like this. And I immediately, it was the first thing that I did when I moved in here because I needed to bring some light into this kitchen. It was so dark, and this kitchen's on the west side of the house, so it only gets really like evening sun. And everything was just like warm and orange and red in here. And at the time, 2 years ago, it was like the gray trend was really starting to come in, so I kind of was really influenced by that, but slowly kind of getting that out of my house and incorporating a little bit more color. But I still love my white cabinets. So I did make a couple of mistakes when I did this. Actually, really only one. I really only made one mistake, and I'll explain that. So what I did was I went over to Delightful Digs in Virginia Beach. They are an Annie Sloan chalk paint retailer. They are the only place around here that I know of that sells Annie Sloan brand chalk paint. I picked up some pure white because I just wanted to paint them white. I didn't want any sort of like yellowy or off-white color to it. And there's two options with Annie Sloan's chalk paint with white colors, and it's old white and pure white. Old white to me just looked a little bit more yellow than the pure white, so I stayed away from it, and that was the mistake that I made. So I ended up having to do about 4 coats of the pure white, and that's because it's a little bit translucent. So if I had been a little smarter, I would have mixed about 1/3 of my paint formula with old white, and it really wouldn't have made a difference. It wouldn't have made the white look any more yellow. It would have still looked very, very true white, which is what I wanted. It just would have made it a little bit less translucent, and it would have made my job a little easier, and maybe I could have gotten away with 2 coats rather than 4. So the other thing that I did was I used Annie Sloan's Floor Lacquer to coat them. I did not wax my cabinets. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on painting your kitchen cabinets with chalk paint, and let me first say that there's not really much about what they look like later. I think because it's still a new thing, everybody's kind of trying it, but they don't really know how long it lasts, what the upkeep is like, and if it's going to kind of like change over time. But I do know that a lot of people were waxing their cabinets, and I just did not want to wax my cabinets because when you wax a piece of furniture after chalk painting with Annie Sloan's chalk paint, you have to go back like a year later and do another coat of wax. And because the wax like slowly kind of wears off, so there's some upkeep with it, and I really wanted to avoid that. So I decided to do Annie Sloan's Floor Lacquer, and that was like the smartest thing ever. It doesn't have any sheen to it. It's kind of like a satin finish. It's not perfectly matte, but it looks exactly how I want the cabinets to look. I still want them to look kind of rustic and kind of matte. I didn't want them to have a sheen, but it protects them from water and any kind of like spills that I've had. They just kind of wipe off. I don't have any issue. I painted a vanity, a makeup vanity that I use with Annie Sloan's chalk paint a few years ago, and I waxed it, and it is so porous. And I don't know if I just applied too much wax or if I didn't do enough. I don't think I know enough about the wax to really say what I did wrong, but anytime I get a little bit of makeup on it, it just stays in there. I'm going to have to repaint the vanity. It's covered in makeup. It looks disgusting. So knowing that, I was like, I don't want my kitchen cabinets to look like that. So that's why I decided to go with the Floor Lacquer. I could have done a polyacrylic clear coat, but I was like, I don't know. I was still kind of worried that it would eventually yellow, and I just wanted to do this like job, one and done, get it over with, and that's why I chose the Floor Lacquer. So I will say, I have a lot of kitchen cabinets, and it took me like 3 weeks to do this project in my spare time because I was working full-time. I still am working full-time, and I didn't have a ton of time to dedicate to this, and so it did take me a little while to do it. Let me just say that I did not sand my cabinets. And you can tell in the photo that it has like, the cabinets are like high gloss. Like, I thought to myself before I did this project several times, should I sand these? Like, I had done several projects before with chalk paint where I didn't sand it, but this was just like really shiny. It's not real wood. It's like, I don't even know what these are made from. But it was just so shiny, so glossy, and I was really worried that the chalk paint wouldn't adhere to it. But I went ahead, I talked to the girls at Delightful Digs, and I asked them what they recommended, and they were like, just paint it. Don't worry about it, just paint it. Clean it with Windex. That's what I did. I cleaned them with Windex. It's the only cleaner I used before I got started. I took all my doors off, I laid everything out, cleaned everything with Windex, and I just painted it. And like I said, I did have to do 4 coats. I wish I had only done 2, and I had mixed the old white in, but I didn't. But anyway, don't sand anything. That's the whole thing with chalk paint, is that you don't have to sand. I watch so many tutorials all the time where people still sand, and I'm like, do you really have to? Do you really have to sand? I don't think so. I've painted glass, I've painted metal, I've painted these high gloss cabinets with chalk paint. I've never had anything peel off. I've never had anything scratch off. You have to make sure it's clean. That's the only thing. My husband lived in this house for 6 years before I moved in. I didn't know what was on these cabinets or how greasy they were or whatever. So I just made sure that they were really, really clean before I got started. But then I just went to town with the paint. So, Upkeep. I did not clean my cabinets today before I filmed this because I wanted to show you guys what they actually look like on a regular basis, because I cook in here every night. My husband and I follow a very strict diet regimen, and we are in here cooking something every night. We're in here cooking every meal. So we get up, we make breakfast here, we pack our lunch to take to work, and we come home at night and we cook our dinner. So oftentimes I've got my hands full, I've got something on my hands, I have to open the cabinet to grab something, and they get kind of dirty. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and I'm going to show you what I use to clean them. Okay, so I have a lot of cabinets in here, as you can tell. And so it was a lot of work painting. And that's the last little set. And I'm just gonna show you guys where it gets a little dirty. So like here on this drawer, we can see some black kind of scuffy marks. We've got like some pizza, I don't know, sauce or something here. So just kind of dirty. And I'm just gonna show you how I clean them and what that looks like after. So I just use these Mr. Clean magic erasers. I do like the extra durable ones because they have like this like textured side. Make sure you get it wet before you get started and go to town. So now that I have them clean, let me just show you the difference. These still, like, they just have like some texture here from like where you can see the wood underneath. I will say, like, if I were gonna be really picky about these, that I would go back and paint these again. But I kind of like a little bit of texture, and you can see where some of it has gotten scuffed. And it just looks kind of rustic and worn in. But for the most part, you know, like things like the pizza sauce, and I mean, it comes like right off. It's not a big deal. Those drawers get a lot of wear and tear because we have our silverware in them. So we use them a lot. And then these are right over our stove. So they get a ton of wear and tear. I'm going to clean these with a magic eraser real quick, and I'll show you how easily it comes off. And then here they are after. Same thing, still have like just here and there on the edges, you can see like where it's worn down. But like I said, I kind of like that look. If I was being picky, I'd go back and paint. But 2 years later, these really do not look bad. So 2 years later, do I love my kitchen cabinets? Yes, I do. I'm super happy with the results. I'm super happy with how they've held up. I don't see a huge difference in the day that I painted them and today. I don't see a huge difference between the two. I think they look really, really good still. They're not perfect. I wish that I would have used the pure white and the old white mix. So if I ever do go back and paint them, that's what I'll do. The one thing I do want to change is the handles on these. So I will do that at some point. I will say that the one thing I'm really, really happy that I did was that I used the floor lacquer. I would not change that for the world. I'm so glad that I didn't wax these cabinets. The floor lacquer has just held up so well. It gives the finish that I want. It protects them the way that I want them to be protected. And I don't have to do a lot of upkeep on them, like by waxing them once a year. And the other thing is that if I ever do decide to paint over them again, I don't have to sand them with waxed furniture or anything that's been waxed with Annie Sloan's wax. You have to remove the wax first by sanding it. With the floor lacquer, you can just paint right over it again. So super easy. Thanks guys for watching, and make sure you subscribe so that you can see my future videos and projects.